I'm going to just fire some rapid questions at Jack Hibbs, and he is my guest for the entire hour. I talked to Amir Tsarfati last weekend and the entire hour about things to come. And he has an Israeli perspective, and he also has the perspective of the Bible, which all of us have here related to Understanding the Times Radio. He feels the thing, I'm not sure if he meant this is the next thing to come, but it's certainly one of the things that the Bible outlines that we need to be paying attention to more so than Gog Magog, and that is Isaiah 17, sort of, the kind of tragedy that happens up to the city of Damascus. What do you feel is the next item of significance that could hit the headlines?
Yeah, I actually agree with that view that I think Amir had mentioned to you. When you begin to look at the scenario, you, Jan, mentioned Isaiah 17:1. Something's going to happen to Damascus that is so catastrophic, the Bible says, it will never again be inhabited. When you read on about that same battle, or that same, I should say, situation, it seems to me that this thing in Damascus triggers. Oh, by the way, Syria is never again mentioned in the prophetic or eschatological battle plan. You never hear about Syria again after that. It's interesting. The next thing is you begin to look at, for example, a possible revisitation, as it were, of Psalm 83. Mm-hmm. As you expand outward from that, I think in what might be a chronological approach, that gives birth to the Ezekiel of battle. Here's the fun thing, Jan, about what we're talking about. We may differ on which one of these things happened first, but here's the great thing. All of us agree that the stage is being set because the players are now dressed. They're in position like never before. Three key things, Jan, that I love about Bible prophecy. Russia is no longer the Soviet Union. It's Russia again. Mm-hmm. You've got Israel existing at the same time the church does. Now, that's never happened before in history. We've got an amazing time forming right now. I see the stage being set.
Stage being set, just in general?
Just in general, yeah, but I got to tell you, I expect to wake up any day now hearing something catastrophic in the city of Damascus. Okay. And as we know, it says that once that happens, Damascus will never be inhabited again.
That's right. I'm bringing out something you teach, and that is that, sadly, Russia is the major player in the Middle East right now. The Bible suggests that's going to happen. That's Gog Magog, Ezekiel 38:39. But again, America had to sort of take a back seat. Mm-hmm. And boy, in the Middle East, America's just, vacant. Yeah. I mean, if she's not there. And so all these other evil forces are moving in, and of course the innocent victims are a lot of Christians and even the minorities such as Yazidis, and even some innocent Muslims who are caught in the crossfire of all of this. This is the tragedy of the fact that America's absent. But Russia, the major player in the Middle East, I wasn't sure that I would live to see that, because I thought until, I guess, Barack Obama, America would remain the major player in the Middle East, but not so.
Right. Yeah, isn't it amazing to think, Jan, if we could just kind of pretend for a moment we're off the microphone together here and just talking over a table. Isn't it amazing that in the last 7 years, America has gone from number one in the Middle East to actually a joke? We're a mockery there. And yet, Barack Obama, according to the eternal plan of God, he has been God's tool. That's the part that's quite sad.
Absolutely.
America has been so reduced to next to nothing. Our freedom is a perception. Our military power is a perception. Our wealth is a perception now. No, these things no longer are reality. Why? Because, frankly, like Nebuchadnezzar or like Cyrus or like others, Obama has been God's servant to bring this nation down.
A lot of people can't handle that. I'm talking to Pastor Jack Hibbs this hour, and he's one of my guests this fall, along with Pastor Robert Jeffress and Michelle Bachman and Amir Tsarfati. A lot of people can't handle that, Jack, and I find it troubling as well. It's been heartbreaking for a lot of people. And folks, this fall, we will help you to look up and not just look around at sad circumstances. Amen. And that's why, and you hear me talking about live streaming and you don't have to come to the conference. Well, come and be a part of the atmosphere, and to be with people who are like-minded is worth the trip. I guarantee you. We'll have at least 3,000 in attendance this fall, and we encourage one another, and that's why we want you there in person, if at all possible, at Grace Church in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Just a couple of more questions, Jack Hibbs. I love any teaching on the millennium, and as you bring out, longevity is going to be brought back during the millennium. Creation will be renovated to be back to the garden. We don't need the evangelical environmental networks to be doing anything because God will do it all. It'll finally be world peace during the millennium. And what else can you tell folks that would encourage them about this eternal state of new heavens and new earth?
You know, the Bible teaches us that as believers we will be with Christ. And, you know, Jen, having recently got back from a deep inside tour of Alaska to see some untouched land of what God had made, though I understand it's under the curse of the fall, I get that. But to think for a moment that the creativity, the love of our God, the joy that He has in creating a whale or a bird or us is simply awesome. To think that Jesus will come back and fix in the millennium what has been so undone by sin, so undone by man. Man's attempt to govern himself will come to an end at the end of the tribulation period, and Jesus takes control. And it's interesting, isn't it, Jan, that everybody wants prosperity, or they want peace, or they want beauty, they want nature, they want all of these, they want health, all the things that they desire from the inside. Only God can answer that.
Well, even perfect government, when we see governments around the world collapsing or being corrupt to the core, we just think it can't get any more corrupt, and the next day it's worse. And this is the time when there will be perfect government, Jesus sitting on the throne in Jerusalem. The government will be upon His shoulders, and we finally are through with all the dysfunctional governments around the world.
Yeah, well said. You know, man, it seems as though mankind, Jan, is no longer worthy of those three great God-ordained institutions. Man's unworthy anymore to govern himself. God created government. He's no longer worthy to honor marriage because man wants to redefine it. And the church, God invented the church. It's sacred to Him, and yet man has proved himself unworthy to even fulfill the call to manage the church. It's all of this is a hopeful thing, believe it or not, because Jesus said, when you see these things, look up, for your redemption draws near.
Jack, in the closing, and I mean literal couple of minutes here, what do you think will be the response of the world after you and I are raptured and many, many, many millions of people are as well?
Wow, I've never been asked that question before. So quickly I'm going to run to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 in my mind. And it says there that God will send in strong delusion, those that are left behind, because they did not love the truth. And for that reason, they'll be greatly, greatly deceived. I'm wondering, Jan, if there'll be some very powerful demonic explanation as to what's happened, and the world will probably be quite giddy and quite happy to have these crazies like us off the planet. You know, I heard one good pastor say that once the rapture takes place, the world will be such an economic peril and such disaster that all the Christian policemen will be gone, and there'll be, you know, all these horrible disasters because there's no more Christians. I don't know. I'm wondering if there'll be some sort of a new age kind of hyper super evolutionary explanation that the earth somehow threw away these crazies that were preventing the next great leap of evolutionary advancement, and there'll be some sort of story to explain it all away.